Lately, I've been thinking about what it means to be a man. Part of it is that I'm 47 and was recently diagnosed with arthritis in my hips. The other part has a lot to do with where I come from. I grew up in a male-oriented house with two big brothers and an athletic dad. We lived in a small college town in the middle of the Midwest in a neighborhood filled with other families who had kids our age. My father and big brothers built a fort in the backyard. Our double driveway was the neighborhood basketball court. All the legends in my family were about men being men. When someone called my grandfather a liar in the 1930s, he jumped over a courtroom table and punched him in the face. My own father had been a preacher and also a boxer, delivering his physical and spiritual messages with equal righteousness and vigor. At one time, he could bench press twice his weight. When he boxed, they called him Frisbee. By the time I came of age, I understood that being a Howie man meant I had to be courageous and strong. To be a man was to not be weak, physically or morally. In the 4th grade, I followed in the footsteps of my brothers and joined the wrestling team. But as the years went by, I came to dread wrestling and my commitment to it. The sport was just so brutal and unforgiving. To go one-on-one against another boy until one of you held the other down on his back. It was cut and dry. There was no middle ground, no mercy. By the time I reached high school, I was burnt out on wrestling. When I hyperextended my back one day during practice, I took the opportunity to quit and turn my attention to football. Football had the same level of violence, but without the exposure of a one-on-one contest. Before each game, I sat in the locker room and stared into my helmet, trying to conjure up my animal instincts. By the time I left the locker room, I was ready to do violence. I wanted to hurt someone. I can still feel the anticipation of the snap, plowing into teenagers from nearby towns with all the force I could muster. The defensive linemen had helmets covered in stickers that represented big hits or big plays. Sometimes they growled. During a game in Marion, one of my best friends, JR, almost got killed playing high school football. He was tougher than any of us, or maybe crazier, and he threw himself into the game with reckless abandon. In this case, he threw himself in front of a defender who was about to blindside our quarterback. After the play ended, JR lay motionless on the field. At first, we wanted revenge. The Wildcats were going to pay for what they did to JR. We paced back and forth while Coach knelt over JR, cracking smelling salts under his nose. But the longer my friend lay there without moving, the more we realized how strange it was to be so angry and fully armored on a cool autumn night. The overriding mission of blocking and hitting and tackling, all that seemed suddenly trivial as it dawned on us that JR was not going to be okay. When they finally took him away on a stretcher, the refs called the game. On the bus ride home, nobody spoke. What I began to realize as I got older is that connecting my masculine identity with physical strength kept me from being satisfied with who I was. I always felt that I had to push myself, that I wasn't strong enough or fast enough, that I wasn't giving it my all. When I swam, I thought about the next triathlon, about racing other swimmers out toward a distant buoy. When I rode my bike, I tried to keep my average speed at 16 miles per hour up and down the rolling foothills of the North Cascades. When I jogged, I pushed myself to run 8-minute miles. Back in the Midwest, Dad was losing his physical abilities as Parkinson's disease tightened its grip on his movements and on his mind. As a boy, he had seen his own father die from Parkinson's, and he and his brothers had built up their bodies as if in defiance of death and disease. They held competitions in their backyard, doing as many push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups as they could, while their father cheered them on from his wheelchair on the porch. And I wonder, is that same fear of death wrapped up in my own obsession to always push myself physically? When you connect manhood with physical goals, swimming harder, running farther, biking faster, what happens when your body finally tells you enough? What happens when the X-ray comes back positive and the doctor tells you to take it easy? How can you let go of that drive without also losing part of who you are? Even asking these questions seems unmanly. In the masculine ideal, I have found little place for emotion, reflection, or doubt. When a therapist once asked my father, "When was the last time you were happy?" he was unable to answer. Finally, he shook his head and tears dripped from his eyes. And I worry that I have built myself in that same mold, as though the physical and emotional were somehow mutually exclusive, and I had given all my energy to developing the physical at the expense of knowing who I am and what I want. These days, I am a college professor, like my father was before me. My students all call me Howie. But now that name has come to mean something more personal to me. I see myself in that name, in my humor and my passion and my energy. It's not something to live up to or strive towards. It's me. I still work out harder than I probably should, but sometimes I catch myself and try to remember that I am more than just this body that holds me. I try not to care if I can't ride my bike as fast as the ultra-fit cyclists, or run as hard as the shirtless members of a high school track team, or even if I can't swim as fast as the man or woman in the lane next to me at the pool. Life is not a race, or a game, or a contest. I used to imagine people were watching me perform, putting up last-second shots in an imagined basketball game, or when I rode my bike and cars passed, or even the lifeguards at the pool thinking, "Wow, that guy's a good swimmer." But my vanity is fading with my youth. Now, instead of pushing myself to go faster, I slow myself down and listen, trying to make sense of what I've long been feeling.